Hey everybody, I'm the Bat Otter and we're back with Volume 9 of Berserk. When we last left off, Guts just got the crap kicked out of him by Slan. He got two giant cuts on him that she just tore into him, tore off his armor. He's in pretty bad shape. But I was really looking forward to reading this part of the book because it introduces the Berserker armor. And I feel like that really picks up the series to another level that it was kind of lacking, because you guys know I haven't been the biggest fan of the most recent volumes that I've been reading, for the sake that it's not as much fun, I'd say, as it used to be. The story is slowing down, the action isn't the same. So whenever I saw Guts cutting up those trolls, it was really refreshing to see that. Whenever Guts was getting absolutely thrown through the ringer, it was really refreshing to see Guts get tortured. I think that's what the series was really missing. It sounds like a joke, but that's what makes the series so interesting, is Guts' ability to persevere through great struggle and lead these people through basically hell, and continue to overcome it, as everybody reminds him, as just a human. So what ends up happening is they're walking along the trail, and out of nowhere, Guts falls. Typical Guts behavior, passing out of nowhere. And the witch can see spiritually. So it turns out he wasn't just wounded physically. His spirit is bleeding, I guess. That's what they're equating it to. As you see here, the wounds to his ethereal body remain unhealed. And Guts shrugs it off as usual, saying it's not a big deal, I'm fine. And she's thinking, that hurts to the point of trauma. People shouldn't even be able to stay conscious through that. And so she asks him what happened in there, and he says, I kicked her ass with one stab from this, a monster who pretends to be an angel. And that freaks her out. Because, mind you, all these characters, as we see throughout the rest of this volume, they're not used to Guts. In the very beginning, they were scared that he was going to take on the ogre all by himself, the trolls by himself. They never witnessed the God Hand. They don't even know that his arm, his false arm, is a cannon, as you'll see later. So these characters really don't know the extent of what Guts has been through. So whenever they're being confronted by these terrible, terrible things that Guts is shrugging off like it's another day for him, they're shocked, and he's just another day. But we see here that the new Band of the Hawk is burning down the witch's hut, which sends the witch into pure panic. Guts, without thinking, no armor, completely battered, goes taking on these pseudo-apostles, or I think actual apostles, with no hesitation involved, until Skull Knight has to bail him out once again. And Grunbeld and Zod confront Guts, saying, hey, it's you again, let's get down. But Grunbeld wants to fight Guts. Now that Guts knows they're all serving Griffith, they are the new Band of the Hawk. Grunbeld says the name, it gets Guts into a fury, they go save the witch, and we are in for a really good show. Because one of the things that Miura does is, whenever a character is injured, whenever something like that is happening, it affects the story. If you guys remember all the way back to whenever Guts fought the 100 Men, and they removed this from the anime, which I really didn't like, Casca mentions he's fighting entirely defensively. He's intentionally staying here to protect me. He's chipping his sword. He's taking unnecessary damage to his sword, and you'll remember later, whenever he fights the Purple Rhino Knight, his sword gets chopped because of the 100-man fight. You see? So these little things that happen might not be important in other stories where it's like, oh, but he overcomes it anyway. And I was afraid that's what was going to happen here. But as we'll see, Guts is getting the crap kicked out of him once again by Grunbeld, and as he puts it, he's strong for an apostle. So he's used to fighting these big, strong monsters, but this guy is a monster without even being a monster. So needless to say, he's getting absolutely pounded by this new guy, to the point where he's effectively going to die if he continues to fight. But the main witch tells Shiark to go retrieve this skull armor, and Guts, again, he's getting battered, but he has that fighting spirit, where Grunbeld says, this lacks, are you really the Black Swordman? Answer me! And he says, a weakling like you? And you get this cool scene where he sees Zod and Skull Knight fighting, and he's like, oh, the battlefield ought to be a sacred place to a warrior. To meet death in battle is one's long-cherished appreciation. but it seems the pride of a warrior is not fitting for you. And Guts retorts, no use in a monster pretending to be a warrior at this point, you narcissistic bastard. And he gets kicked. But what's Guts saying here? Guts, a human being who's taken on all these monsters, literal monsters like Zod and the Apostles, with just this giant sword, and he's taking these guys out. He's enduring all this stuff. Whereas these guys have these superpowers, they're turning into dragons, they're turning into beasts, and they're calling themselves warriors, even though they're fighting plain humans. Yet Guts is able to compete with them, so Guts is over here thinking, hey man, you're not a warrior, you're a coward. It's like in Batman v Superman where he says, you're not brave, men are brave. It's that same kind of concept, but in this case, the antagonists are the ones who are overpowered and evil, and so that actually applies here. So of course, they're putting Guts in the armor. Shi'ar is terrified, but Guts motions to her like, hey, it's fine, I'm good, I'm okay. And I love these panels of beaten up, battered Guts. Like I said, I love Guts to suffer. That's how the story is good. If Guts isn't suffering, it's not good enough. I'm just saying, guys. I know other people are like, we want a happy ending. No, listen, that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it so much fun. And panels like this as well. Like I said, this is just scattered with incredible panels. Something gross, something dark. He looks more like a monster compared to this monster. Yeah, is this guy ugly? The entire thing is ugly. But he's rising up. Grunbeld is consumed in flames. I love all of the forest fires that are in Berserk. From whenever he raids Rosine's forest to this part here. The way that Miura is... And again, this sounds like a broken record, but the way that Miura is able to establish these very unique settings is second to none. So Guts ends up coming out, slashing this guy into pieces. He dons the Berserker armor, looking absolutely incredible. All the folds and all the layers in the armor. It's great. I love the intricacies here. And he's tearing these apostles apart like it's easy. Like he does it all the time. But it's even easier than usual. Standing above them all, everybody's so shocked at him. And we get some really cool panels. That's one of the things that I don't mind with the introduction of the spirit and all these ethereal things, is it makes for some very artistic panel work, where it's internal monologues of characters, and you can see the spiritual side as well as the physical side, and Miura is able to create that setting very well. And something that I thought funny of the fight against Grunbeld whenever he dons his armor, Skull Knight and Zod, they stop fighting. They literally stop fighting and watch Guts fight Grunbeld, because Zod and Skull Knight, they have the history, and he says, oh, you'd lead him down the same path to hell just to help you? And he's like, yeah, I kind of would. So it's this really awesome stuff. Guts becomes the beast inside of him, and has to deal with all these new emotions, and we get, like I said, just grisly panels. And he has this superhuman strength. As you guys know, the armor numbs the pain, dulls the pain, and destroys your inhibitions, as well as forces your body back into pieces. So if you break your bones, it goes in there and it manually, forcefully reconstructs them. So Grunbeld has the cannon in his shield. Guts blitzes him, uses his own hand cannon to blow him up, and he's tearing this guy apart. He dons the... Where's the page? Hold on. He dons his persona as the beast, and it's... Guys, I'm not kidding here. I know you guys know that I like to stare at panels for very long periods of time. I can't tell you how long I've looked at this page and picked it apart for every single little line and idea that Miura tried to put down. It's absolutely gorgeous, this page, whenever you just stare at it for a while. And the amount of ideas that I'm going to take from Berserk and use in my own work is I mean, it's a lot. I'm speechless by it. That shows you how great it is. So Guts is fighting, and Shi'ar is explaining that every time he gets wounded, the armor heals him. So while you can overexert yourself and exhaust yourself to the point of death, you can also bleed out inside of the armor because it's piercing your body and forcefully, again, reconstructing the parts inside of you, causing you to bleed endlessly. And it's... I mean, you guys, when I say gross, I mean, it's nasty. It's absolutely awful what's happening here. And like I said, I just can't get enough of it. And you see it. Miura doesn't hold back, and that grittiness that Berserk almost lost. I feel going into the fantasy realm is automatically just right back. And again, you get 2 splash pages of Grunbeld in his full dragon form. I absolutely love the use of screen tones to light the crystals. We're gonna get through this whole thing in the video, so this will be a longer one for you guys. I don't know if you guys like the longer ones or the shorter ones. I'll try to balance them out. Looks massive. Like I said, setting, size, every idea that Miura has, he is perfect at expressing it. I mean, again, another instance where the guy is too big for the page and Guts is standing him down, right? As just a ferocious monster, a beast, right? And as you can see, the bones are being broken, Guts is all twisted up, bleeding out of every single crack in the armor, and Shiark realizes that he's becoming a monster, literally becoming a monster. You see these parts where his face is blacked out in the smoke, in the haze. Incredible stuff, guys. I hate to sound like a broken record, and Shiark going into the spirit realm, the ethereal realm, oh my gosh. These pages, man, cannot get enough of them. I simply cannot. She goes to him and she says, Guts. She starts to see all of the things that are making him so angry, all the things that made him who he is, and Shiark is having to witness all these things. And you get this internal monologue from Guts where he's losing his mind, he's losing his ego. She's trying to tell him, remember who you are. He's drowning it all out, the urge to kill. And the way that the thought bubbles, can you even call them that, are posted, where it's almost a schizophrenic's mind being told by all these evil sort of voices, the way that goes from malice, hate, all that, to where it's like shattered glass on the page, kill, run, where it's just straight brush marks to depict that, and then it gets all the way down to Griffith, where it's the largest shattered mark. It's everything about this is good. I love everything about this. Until Guts finally wakes up, he sees Casca in danger and snaps out of it, goes to save her, and you get that classic Berserk page of him. I actually marked it on the page because of how good it looks in person, the size of my hand. This page where the armor comes off, Casca looks at him, terrified as usual. He dons the gray hair, the life that the armor has taken from him, and they flee. The witch ends up saving them, traps Grunbeld, traps them all, and we get to a bunch of stuff with Griffith. Now, I'm just going to skip over all this. We meet Ganishka, we meet the Kushans, and these strange hybrid creatures that are ruling this land. He is quite literally a demon king, as, what's his name? Silat finds out. Ganishka terrifies the king's daughter, and it's just ugly, ugly, ugly stuff, setting up some fights for Guts, showing the newfound strength of the Band of the Hawk and the War Demons, and that Griffith is still a master tactician. Despite being up against a literal demon army, Griffith still has the upper hand. He has the best apostles. We get this guy turns into his apostle form, and they do the typical poke, where this guy leads the charge in, distracts the Ganishka. Griffith comes in and gets Princess Charlotte, and completely blitzes Ganishka in his... He looks like Zeus. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. He becomes the clouds, he becomes electricity. It's really cool looking. But honestly, the parts with Griffith and the parts with the Band of the Hawk aren't as interesting to me as they were before. You get some excellent panels, as usual, right? Griffith being very angelic. You get high fantasy sort of illustrations with it, which are always great, but they're not my cup of tea all the time. You get this one. Great panel here. I just like the grittier stuff more. I know that's not a hot take or nothing. I'm not trying to be. But one last thing that I wanted to mention was Guts still has the armor. He's still recovering, as they say here. He has too many wounds, but it's numb enough that he can go on anyway. He can take it. And you get this really nice scene at the beach where they're reflecting on some of the moments past. It seems like a few weeks, maybe a month has passed. But they get this panel here. It says, when we finally removed it, the sharp pain made him repeatedly slip in and out of consciousness each time the wounds would open it. And if you look at this image, the amount of pain that you could see from this image. I mean, these people are terrified. They think he's dying. There's a cut on every part of his body. He's coughing up blood, throwing up blood, slipping in and out of... I mean, it's so visceral and raw, like I said, and that's what got me into Berserk. If you guys remember, my first review it was raw. I called it metal, right? And this is what keeps me coming back, because it's that perseverance. Like I said, that's what makes the story so interesting, is what is Guts going to have to face down now? What is he going to have to mentally and physically bear in order to move his journey forward, continue to protect Casca, and have his ultimate goal of taking revenge on Griffith and taking him down? It's a goal that seems like it's impossible, but yet he strives for it anyway, and I think that's the best part of Berserk. And even his character starts to get skinnier, lose some weight, much more dilapidated, hungry he looks. And it's just a nice tail end to this book. Farnese wants to become a witch, and you get Skull Knight bookending the book as he usually does. So all in all, it was a very up and down volume. The biggest fight in it wasn't actually against Grunbeld, it was against the trolls. The fight against Grunbeld was incomplete. So as far as fights, it's still not even that good in terms of Berserk, but it does establish some things that I am looking forward to for once, and it makes the story feel like it's picking up pace just a little bit, enough to get me coming back. So that's been the review. That's the entire Volume 9. I hope you guys liked it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Tell me what you guys think. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video.